It's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's our goal. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show. Hey.
Mike, this is very exciking.
Yeah, man.
Man, thank you for doing this. This
Of
is so
course.
great.
Of course, man.
We have been kind of circulating around each other like little
Yeah.
outer electrons. And
Who's the nucleus? Do you know who the nucleus is?
oh man, I don't know.
Hmm.
I was thinking maybe Hannibal.
Hannibal
Maybe
for sure. Yeah.
Hannibal Buress.
Are you cool with Paul F. Tompkins?
Yeah. He's in my orbit. He's in your orbit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay,
For
cool.
sure. He's a buddy.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he was always part of this group of comics who, coming from New York, I would see these LA guys who looked like they were super cool, and I always wanted to kind of like penetrate into their atom, and I would always get close, but never really get to Paul F.
I see. So I guess he was with the Largo guys. The
Right.
Largo guys, yeah. And he's the only one of them I really even know, but I met a bunch of people through him.
Got it. Yeah. And then I started looking into your new podcast with Prince Paul.
Yeah, man.
What's the name of it again?
It's called What Had Happened Was.
That's such a
It's-
great
it's
title.
a
What
very
had happened
hood,
was.
very hood statement. You know,
It is?
You might not be used to saying that, but people who grew up in the hood, what had happened was is something you hear all the time.
Right.
All the time.
It's
Yeah.
one of those phrases that once I understand it, I just shouldn't even try saying.
Well, no, you can make it your own. I just think it's representative of like I'm about to tell you a story, but it's not gonna be completely true, and that's not what the podcast represents. But
Yeah.
that's how that saying comes across.
Right. Okay. What had happened was I walked into the house and she was just standing there, and that's kind of
Yes, exactly.
You know, it's not really what happened.
Yeah, something's getting left out or put in that shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, so I think that Prince Paul might be this. I mean, I'm not in his world, but De La Soul, third base, all of that stuff was, which I had no idea that he was behind that stuff.
Yeah.
That was like my heartbeat during college. So that's another common little connection that we're going to uncover right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of the story of the podcast is that he was behind a lot of stuff people don't know he was behind. Like the Chris Rock albums, for instance.
Right.
Like the big ones, Roll with the New, Bigger and Blacker, Never Scared. He won Grammys for all three of them, and Prince Paul produced all three of those albums.
Oh man, that's so amazing. And then more recently, Baron Vaughn came on my radio show twice in the last year.
Okay.
And he kept talking about the new Negroes, this show, and he's such a light. It's the first time I met him. He's so great and just like this positive energy. I just love him so much. And then connected that you were part of that and dark comedy. And I'm skipping over. We're going to go back to all this
Sure.
stuff. I'm just talking about why I'm so happy to. And we're going to be friends after this.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that because I always, whenever I do an interview with somebody, I have this feeling where I feel like I'm their friend, but I don't know for sure. So
Right.
this is good to know going in that I can actually hold on to that feeling.
No, it's happening. It's definitely happening. I'm not going to let go. And then dark comedy. When dark comedy came out, that's when I became jealous of Hannibal because he was in your orbit and featured on that album, and it was such a good album. It was my nephew Russell, who I always once you have kids and you start moving out, you got to do your work to stay in tune with what's good. It doesn't just come to you anymore.
Absolutely.
And he turned me on to dark comedy as soon as it came out, and holy cow, was that great! And then knowing that there was a comedian involved, I was really, really jealous.
Yeah, I certainly used that feature to talk to comics all the time
Oh,
around
really?
that time. I think I ran up on Brian Posehn in the airport one time and like handed him look, Hannibal's on it. Like,
That's so great. So what was you had a love of comedy when you were a kid and
Yeah,
a love of
absolutely.
music? Where did how did
mean,
this
I
little
was
seed plant?
a latchkey kid, and I grew up in a really dangerous neighborhood and a really dangerous time. So I spent a lot of time at home. My grandparents raised me, and they were working. So like I would be sitting at home watching television like constantly. So, at that time, there was only like a few hours worth of cartoons on any day. So other than that, in my television watching, all that I could really do was watch funny stuff.
Right.
And so, and we had cable. We were lucky to have cable. So I would just skip all around the dial looking for anything funny. If it was a sitcom, if it was a talk show, if it was stand up, even like Nick at Night, like I'd be watching sitcoms from the 50s, just because like that was always what I was aiming for. Was just like what was funny, and I was like learning about the world through like Richard Lewis doing stand up, it was So like that's just
where were you, Mike? Where was
South side of Chicago?
South side of Chicago. And was it was hairy at the time? It was it was
it was the crack
rough.
era. It was like the peak of the crack era, like where like we had a lot of, it was so bad we had a lot of education in school about cocaine and crack. Like it was bad,
Oh my God.
I was in the third grade. There was a kid in our class. He had just transferred into our school maybe 2 weeks before that. And he was like sitting in the back of the room, and he was like leaning back in the chair. And all of a sudden we heard this giant boom noise. The kid had passed out. And he had to get rushed to the hospital. And we were informed as a classroom that when they took him to the hospital, they found out his body, his system was filled with cocaine.
Oh my God.
He's a third grader, and his system was filled with cocaine.
Did he just stumble on it by accident, or did he take it? Or
Well, we didn't get any more backstory. We never heard from that kid again. I mean, he probably got taken away from whatever housing situation he was in at the time.
God.
But you got to think an older sibling or something is selling or using, and he got into it.
It was such a scourge. That era was so insanely insane. I mean, I was in the New Jersey, New York area.
Yeah.
And so you just saw just whole neighborhoods just taken out. Man, that was rough. So you're a little kid running around.
Yeah.
And you're living with your grandparents, and you're like, I think I'm going to watch some comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because going outside wasn't really like a viable option, like there were shootings all the time. So, so we were in the house,
Were you scared at the time, or is it just like, it's kind of like you kind of just know where to go. It's your,
the way I think about it is like this. Yeah. There was some normalcy to crime, but within that, both from parenting, from teachers, and even just culturally through stories, like there were things to be extra afraid of.
Right.
And so like, for instance, like, we had a lot of DARE education at DARE, that drug program. Like, and it, like, to this day, I can't stand to be around cocaine. I cannot stand to be around it, because that's the type of like fear that was instilled in me about it as a child.
Yeah.
So it was like, yes, there was some normalcy to shootings, some normalcy to violence. It was very normal to see like, drug addicted people was very normal. Yeah. But there were things that were like extra dangerous and extra scary. Right. Even within that.
Right. And what were your grandparents like?
They were really cool working people who had both like made decent enough money to kind of separate themselves a little bit from whatever the median income was at the time, and kind of be living like, even them just being working class was a better situation than, the poverty that surrounded the area.
Right.
And so they were just really protective and really supportive, especially of like me and my sister,
right.
supportive of our education. and wanting to keep us safe, like at all
Yeah.
costs.
Yeah. Who was the cook?
My grandmother.
Yeah.
Grandmother was a cook. Yeah.
Was she serious?
Oh, she used to get down, but she worked all day too. So, she wasn't. She didn't cook every night after
Sure.
a certain point.
Yeah.
Because she was working all day. But
Yeah.
the day she cooked, she got down.
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening during the beginning of quarantine. I was just talking about this last night. There was this story on the radio about the person telling the story was, I wanted to go revisit my grandmother's recipes that I loved because it's time now I have to cook. So let me see what it was all about. And she realized it was dishes like Ritz crackers and Campbell soup mixed together, or like, and she called her grandmother because she's still around, and the grandmother was like, "We were busy. We didn't have time. It's not like now, like artisanal cooking and getting your things at the farmer's market. It was like, no, I worked till 7. I had to feed the kids before homework. We needed something." Like in 5 minutes. Yeah. And then, on the holidays or something, they stretched out.
Exactly. I can remember some nights when I think my grandmother worked late Tuesday and Thursday nights. And on those nights, our grandfather would get us various microwavable dinners. We had every kind, it seemed like. Every Act 2, every Hungry Man type of Salisbury steak thing you could have. I remember... Because this is really kind of, I think, probably when microwave food was really just kind of catching on. And they were experimenting with French fries. Act 2 was, and they had these French fry cartons for these microwavable French fries, and you had to load them into this cartridge box. It was like you were loading a gun.
With each fry.
Yes, and you had to put it all in the microwave. And let it sit for 2 minutes, and it still came out nasty. It didn't even help. It didn't even help.
No. You can't get French fries out of a microwave.
They gave up. They gave up. Yeah.
We're gonna leave this to the popcorn people. What are some of the memorable meals back then? Was there like a favorite, like if you were homesick or if you had a holiday?
One thing that I have a very fond memory of, and it's always going to be a memory because. My grandmother used to cook a lot of pork, and I don't eat pork anymore. I haven't eaten pork since I was like 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
But she used to like a vast majority of the food that she made was pork. And the one thing that I miss, she used to make these ribs in the oven.
Oh boy,
they were so good.
Oh boy.
That was one of those things. She'd be cooking them for hours, and then the smell would fill the house. And I'd just be looking forward to getting my hands on those ribs.
Oh man, that's good stuff. Yeah. And what was your grandfather like?
He was cool. Like he was. We lived in a big high-rise building, like 12 floors.
Right.
And he was the building manager.
Oh, okay. Of the whole place?
The whole place,
man.
whole building. So whenever anybody had a broken toilet or you know what I mean,
yeah,
the door wouldn't close
busy.
all the way. Yeah, he was on call all the time.
Oh my God!
But both of my grandparents, it's interesting to think of now that I'm an adult. I can kind of look at them and realize like just how deeply set into their routines they were. Like. Watching soap operas, like my grandfather sitting in his favorite chair, and my grandmother watching her. Like they had separate soap operas they would watch, and they would spend a lot of time in separate rooms. Like now I understand why that was, but at the time I was like, oh, that's weird. They like different shows, so they sit in different rooms. Like they weren't all the way getting along.
We're just keeping the peace right now.
They were, and it was just like that was their existence. Like my grandfather would be in their bedroom, and my grandmother would be in the living room. They'd both be comfortable watching their shows.
Yeah,
my grandmother would be smoking cigarettes, and my grandfather would just be watching. He'd switch between his soap operas or whatever sports were on.
It's such a funny thing, that generation. Like there was this. It didn't have like the acute path or desire for pure bliss, like that we should all just be so happy and this precious cut. It was no, we're getting through this, and
Yeah.
in whatever way we have to do it, we're gonna do it. You
Yeah.
know, like I always heard stories of like my like grandmother's sister, and it was like they were married, and they said like Uncle Bill went to Siberia for a couple years, and that was just the family story. And then he came back, and it was like, no, he left and lived with with another woman for a while. But that's what made the marriage work ultimately.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing.
It is. It is like their comfort with discomfort is something that I have not thought enough about.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I have a very different understanding of it now than I did then. It seemed like I also marvel at how much energy they put into us.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
being grandparents, like when you think that you've moved on from having to parent,
Yeah.
they put so much energy and love and support into us.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah, I know. I've got two kids, and I always go back and forth with whether or not I'm selfish or not, because I'm still pretty dialed in on the stuff that I want.
Right. Me too.
And,
And I have a child, so I think about those same things all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, don't you? And then you think about like your grandparents, and it's like there was no them. Like they were definitely second, right, to you and your sister, right? It was like in my house, I'm pretty much still number one.
And self-aware about it too. Wow. I think of stuff like, I can remember when my grandfather might have been sitting watching a Cubs game, just completely dialed in.
Yeah.
And I would run into his room and excitedly show him how long I could hold my breath. And he would just let me do it and smile, and I would be so annoyed if my kid did that. If I was like trying to watch a game, there was no DVR, there's nothing. Like all you have is this live sports thing, and my kid wants to tell me how long he can hold his breath. Why?
Good for you.
Yeah, you know,
that's hilarious.
the patience is just incredible.
Yeah, I know. It's a different thing. But there might also be a different thing because they were your grandparents, and there's just a different level of love and knowledge of the world at that point. You know, when you're a parent, you're just, you know, you don't think you've got it all together, but you're pretty panicked most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you
Absolutely.
act cool and act like you've got it down. It's a different thing. I just want to show you. If this was yours, and I tried to get it to you before I.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
Oh yeah,
that looks beautiful. How does it make that shape on top?
You score it. You take a razor.
Really, a razor?
A razor, and you slash it after it's proofed, and then it lets the air out. Is really what it does. And if you do it that way, you get a little style to it.
If you had to cut a person with a razor, it'd probably be easy to you now, like because of all the bread cutting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I could do it really quick without them even knowing it was me.
See, you'd have done well in my neighborhood. You'd have done well. You'd have done well.
Oh man! So you're in there in this house in this giant building. And
yeah.
Things are a little weird outside, but you're hustling it. You're going to school, and you got your grandparents nice around you. And you said in the beginning that you were watching comedy.
Yeah.
Just trying to dial in comedy. Were there any that became ultimately your favorites?
Well, my favorite thing in the world was everything that was on Nickelodeon at that time.
Uh-huh.
Because they had this was kids programming, but it was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, like, You Can't Do That on Television. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
Like that type of shit, like this weird Canadian humor,
Right.
and everything's about like getting like these kids getting stuff dumped on their heads and like being professional about it, and like and I think one of the most impactful things on me and stuff that I really paid attention to at that time was how much fourth wall breaking there was in entertainment. So like you go from the Nickelodeon stuff where everybody was talking to the camera about them being on a television show,
right,
even to something like the Gary Shandling show was huge for me.
Oh God, yeah.
Because of how much he would like stop the episode and address you as the audience about what was going on. You know,
amazing. Yeah, that was such a cool device. That was such a cool moment. So that was on Fox. So that's a pretty wide range. That's a pretty
anything with comedy, like because The thing was, I didn't want to watch Hunter. I didn't want to watch Magnum PI. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yeah.
I had no interest in Hardcastle and McCormick. You know what I mean? So like, I just wanted anything with laughter. To me, was like preferable to everything else that was going on.
Were you funny? Did it make you funny as a kid?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I think what it made me was I used to laugh too hard at things when funny things would happen. Like somebody would make a joke on the playground and I would fall out and die laughing.
Yeah.
And people would look at me like something was wrong, you know? I don't know, but it was just like I wanted to laugh all the time. So
Yeah.
like, I just leaned into it, you know?
Oh, that's great. Were you a good student?
Yeah. Well, I was. That's a journey of an answer. In the beginning, very good. Like, you know, top of the class, and I've always taken tests really well. What suffered around the time I went to from 5th grade to the end of high school, what suffered was work ethic. I used to have it.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget in 5th grade, the first time we got homework on the weekend. I was fucked. I was fucked after that. I was fucked. Because my definition of work ethic was you go home, do your homework immediately, hopefully in time to catch a few cartoons.
Right.
Now, if you send me home on Friday with homework, I'm not going to do it Friday because I got all weekend. And I'm also not going to do it Saturday.
No, definitely not that.
Which means I'm doing 3 days worth of work at Sunday at 6 o'clock. You know, and it was just setting myself up for disaster.
I was the same way. My whole strategy was just do whatever you have to do to not get in trouble, not get in serious trouble. If I could do a C, maybe even a C- once in a while, they would leave me alone.
Yeah. My fall off was pretty hard. It was. I was really good, and then I got really middling. But it also coincided with a parenting change. So my grandmother passed away, and I started living with my mom.
How old were you?
13. So this is 8th grade.
Oh man.
And as you could imagine, if we were living with my grandparents in the first place, mom wasn't the most stable environment.
Right.
So my work ethic changed, and what went along with that was also a little bit less attention paid to what I was doing every day.
Right.
So,
you can get away with a lot more now.
Exactly.
Under mom's watch.
Exactly. Because all she was worried about was the report card.
Was she always circulating around like when you were younger?
She was always around, same as my father. Both were always very, like, their presence loomed, but I just wasn't living with them.
Right. Okay. Got it. So then your grandmother passes away. 8th grade is such a rough time anyway.
Yeah, it was weird.
Best case scenario, that's a difficult.
Yeah.
That's 7th, 8th
It
navigation.
was already rough waters.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh man. So then your mom just sees the result of the report card and then it basically isn't saying like what happened?
Well, I mean, no, it wasn't nothing too bad, and I think like I don't know. I don't think she saw the contrast well enough between like me going from a straight A student to like, B's and C's. You know.
Yeah.
She like I think by the time I was living with her, I just stopped trying as hard.
Yeah.
And so like I said, I was always good at taking tests. I started to get bad at doing homework, so that would just put me at a B or a C, you know, pretty much in any class. And that's just kind of what it was. I kind of wrote that all the way through high school.
Right. Yeah. I know. Yeah. The bare minimum strategy,
basically.
Right? It's like you're smart kid. And then you're just like, let me just try and get through this and then and wrap this up and move along. Was it more difficult in like those teenage years living in that area and the influence and the like, how do you keep the bad away? Like the real bad.
I think my family, and this is when I say family, I mean mom, I mean older cousins, I mean everybody who was around me that really cared about me
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that I stayed safe.
Yeah.
And so even like cousins that I had that were into all kinds of dark shit,
Yeah.
they wanted to make sure I never got too into it.
Ah.
So they did want to show me things. They wanted to show me how to talk to girls. They wanted to take me to parties. They wanted to get me drunk on the low, you know.
Yeah.
But they didn't want me to get jumped into the gang.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they saw that I could do other things.
Yeah.
And they fostered that. And you know, and in that they would, you know, we'd all have more fun sitting up playing video games and you know, them showing me music and stuff rather than taking me to where the real shit was going down.
Right. Wow, that's a blessing.
It was great.
Yeah, because that, I mean, if they just wanted to give you a little bit of that, you're just that's a whole nother story. So
it's completely different at that point. Yeah. If they make a different decision.
How big of that extended family is it?
Well, it's fun. I can never give straight answers to these questions because everything was so complicated. So when I started living with my mom, my mom had become part of this church thing, kinda. That was
sounds like a cult.
Yes. But there's a lot of black cult church situations, and this was one of those. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, and every black church that's not part of a national structure is in a way like a cult. Because it's usually just one person who just decided that they're a minister.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then whoever you know, whoever orbits that person becomes the church.
Right.
And in this case, they were church and family. So we all lived in a big house together.
Ah, wow.
And so even the people I was just referring to as my cousins, those weren't blood cousins. The only blood relatives I had in that house, it was me, did I just say I was my own blood relative? That's hilarious. But it was my mother and my sister and my brother. But we stayed in the house. It had to be 15 people in this house, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And was it a positive force because it was churchish?
Nah, it was weird.
It was
mad weird. It was so hypocritical and strange, and all the adults were doing weird shit, and you know, and it, you know, it was ultimately Christian. So like, you know, there was prayer and you know and community and you know, and there was some wisdom,
right?
But there wasn't a lot of, what would I call it? The people weren't really actually holding themselves accountable for anything.
So like all of the religious stuff without like the everyday morality.
Exactly. With all the religious stuff with no discipline and no follow through.
Right.
You know, so just talking the shit on Sundays and doing whatever the fuck you want during the week, pretty much.
We'll be forgiven on Sunday.
Yeah. Definitely that sort of attitude.
Right.
There was some weird shit happening. But
And was there an expectation that you would follow that?
I was for a while. I was an acolyte in this little weird church. I wore a white robe and white pants and white shoes, and I lit the candles to start the service.
Yeah, like
and I had the little bell thing, that put them out at the end.
Yeah.
And I was in the choir and shit. You know, I was in it.
I
was in it until I started having my own spiritual existential questions.
Right.
That I was not satisfied with any of their answers to.
Right. And this is as a teenager.
Yeah.
You're starting to figure that out.
Yeah.
And just to thread this in, because it's such an important part of the story, and of course I lead with comedy. What was the music? I mean, there's got to be a music cascading on you during these years also.
The way I like to think of it is that, like, I was born into a hip hop environment. Mm-hmm. Like, the first person who ever played rap music for me was my mother. When I was 6 years old, I got into a car with her, and she was playing Eazy-E. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Who is this man who sounds like a cartoon, who is talking about his dick and killing people? I'm like, am I supposed to be hearing this? It's also hilarious.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I was kind of born into a rap environment. It was just everywhere. It was in you know, my parents. It was other kids at school. Like it was just
Right.
everywhere. It was on television because I used to watch a lot of music videos too. Like,
Right.
So aside
MTV
from
was-
comedy, yes, MTV,
Yeah.
VH1, they were showing videos back then a lot, and
Right.
I used to watch a lot of that too. I think I should definitely say that in my television watching,
Yeah.
a lot of time was spent watching MTV.
Right. Yeah. There was that. Yeah. When Yo MTV Raps was that a little before you?
No,
Or was
no. That was on.
you?
That was
you.
on.
Yeah.
MTV Raps, and then BT had Rap City. Yeah,
Right.
all of that. Mhm.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's so funny to picture you in your mom's car as that song comes on.
Yeah,
and,
wide-eyed.
Your
yes.
eyes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mom's not hitting me. Mom's actually playing this.
Right. It was very confusing.
Yeah.
It was very confusing.
Yeah. So as you're finding your way and you're getting through high school, are you starting to think like maybe I'm trying one of these? I see myself in front of a mic at some point, or is is this too early in the story?
It was very specific when I was a sophomore in high school. There's this place on the south side of Chicago. It's a Park District building in a lighthouse, and it was called Promontory Point. And in Promontory Point on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, they had a city-sponsored hip-hop class. And the real programming for the class was breakdancing. But because of the population of the people who were taking that class, it was a gathering point for all of the people participating in the hip-hop arts on the South Side. So breakers would come, rappers would come, DJs would come, and graffiti artists would come every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon and just be there. Like the graffiti artists would be sharing their graffiti books. The rappers would be in circles rapping. The breakers would be breaking. Occasionally, somebody would bring turntables and start DJing.
Wow.
So it was me and a group of friends in high school, my sophomore year, that kind of happened upon this. And all of us were kind of free-floating, radical, baseless humans at the time with no, like unformed, malleable substances. And we all locked into this place and these people and these art forms, and we all decided we were just going to do this. We were going to do these things.
Wow, that's great.
So I started.
Who was your best friend at that point?
A guy named Roy.
Roy?
He lives in L.A. So
Oh yeah,
we hung out last week.
Oh, nice. And Roy had the same. He was ready to go. He wanted to go with you.
Yeah, same thing. We were all like weird kids. Like we were all kind of like we weren't cool. We weren't great with girls.
Right.
We were all kind of awkward, and we needed something like that to like build identities off of.
Yeah.
And it was really great because it was as close as you could come to an actual meritocracy. Where like if you figured out how to get good at these things, then suddenly you had a personality.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna hang on to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we all built ourselves up like in these arts.
And was rapping right off the bat the thing?
I started rapping, breaking, and doing graffiti. I couldn't afford turntables, so I couldn't do that.
Right.
But rapping probably came the easiest to me. I also did breakdancing for a long time, and I did graffiti for a long time, but I was really bad at it. I was really terrible at graffiti. I was super awful at graffiti.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Where would they do it? How would they do it in the park what would they graffiti each time they
in the park
same spot?
It was books. It was just you bring in your graffiti book, your pad, your art pad.
Got it.
And everybody was just kind of getting together and drawing what they were eventually going to spray paint.
Right.
But we used to go on missions. I used to be a scratch bomber, which meant I was the kind of asshole that used to run around with sandpaper and drill bits, and I used to scratch my name into glass.
Oh man!
So there's still some places in Chicago where my tag is up because I used to scratch it into glass.
Man, I did that one time when it was plexiglass. They put plexiglass in my third grade. No, I guess it was probably like sixth grade classroom, and they put plexiglass in, and they were so proud of it.
What did you write on it?
The name of the teacher was Mary Kenny. and I wrote Harry Mary on it.
Whoa, you went right at her.
It was so mean. It was so shitty because she was a nice lady.
Oh,
and she was so proud.
felt-
She was so proud of her windows. We were bored.
she felt like shit that day. Oh
Yeah.
man, was she hairy?
I don't know. Probably not.
She took a long, hard look in the mirror that day. Wow.
Yeah, but that was the extent of my my suburban graffiti.
Yeah, no, I used to. That was my hang, man. Every day we used to do this thing where we would get on public transportation,
Yeah.
and ride to the end of a train line
Uh-huh.
when everybody gets off,
Yeah.
and just tear that shit apart.
Oh, really?
And then get on the next one going back in towards the city. So like entire cars, we would just fuck up. Just awful.
Did you ever get caught?
I never did. I was the only one that didn't.
Oh,
All of my
really?
friends, like there was like a month when we were seniors that like every one of us got arrested one by one, but I didn't. And that's when I quit.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's so funny because it's the thing artistically. It's the thing that you were the worst at,
But it's the most high risk.
the most high risk and the most energizing. It must have been a rush.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to, it's funny, because I lived by the end of one of the trains, the one I used to take to school. I lived on the end of one of those lines.
Uh-huh.
And so I used to get up so early to go to school. My mother must have thought I just loved school.
He's so motivated.
But I would just get up every morning so I could make sure the train car was empty so I could destroy it on the way into school every morning.
She's all proud, having coffee. He goes
Meanwhile,
early.
right. I have a pocket full of sandpaper. I'm going to destroy the train glass.
Oh my God, it's the worst.
Yeah, it was bad.
Man, oh man. So, but the rap you started feeling that was, you were getting good at that.
Yeah, because I figured out, like, because my brain always thinks in, like, systems, right? And trying to, like, understand what's happening. So, like, I understood what the formula was that these guys were doing because these guys were so impressive. They were just coming off with raps off the top of their head.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to get good at doing it on time.
Uh-huh.
But I did understand the formula for how they were coming up with the stuff. Was
Got
that
it.
they would have a punchline in their head. They would have something they wanted to land on.
Right.
They would say the setup line and then say the punchline. And they would just kind of repeat that over and over again for as many lines as they could remember or navigate towards.
Interesting.
So it took a while for me to do it where I could do it on time because that's the real hard part is like having your brain, match the tempo or whatever you're rapping on.
Right.
But since I understood that's what it was, I would just write punchlines and think of punchlines constantly. And just jump into cipher. We used to rap in ciphers. And I would wow people with the punchlines that I thought of.
Right, that's cool. And would you jot them down the way I
Yes.
do with my jokes and just keep keep them in your pocket kind of thing?
I'd have a notebook,
Yeah.
with rhyme schemes and punchlines.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, it's so funny how similar it is.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, when I could just imagine as you're finding your way and starting to get good at it, like the first time like you had a really good line that you, because when you have something prepared that's locked and loaded, if it misses, it's so corny and so bad. But if it hits, you're just so powerful.
Yeah,
When
I
that
remember-
first happens.
They used to have battles at this place, Promontory Point. These were like tournaments basically. You get paired up with somebody and y'all would freestyle against each other and you'd move on to the next round if you won.
Yeah.
And the first one I ever got in, I won it. And I had never
Whoa.
felt so proud of myself in my life to get this little 6-inch trophy
Yeah.
that the Park District had made. Like,
Oh, that's so great.
I mean, other than like, I used to get school awards when I was younger.
Yeah.
But those always felt weird to get. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this was the first thing I'd actually like wanted to win that I had gotten, and it was a big deal for me.
Oh, must have been. It
Yeah.
must have been huge.
Oh, I got an award when I was in 8th grade from my friends because I was bad with girls. My friends got together and gave me an award for most rejected.
Brutal.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
That's brutal.
Rough times.
Only your friends. Only your friends would do that.
Yes. Absolutely.
But that's good though, because it meant that you were trying. You couldn't have been rejected if you had quit.
Exactly. I was out there swinging, man. I was out there swinging.
Why wasn't it working? Were you goofy at that age? Were you the same size you are now?
I think what it was I just didn't have. I really didn't have a social self.
Yeah.
I didn't have dimensions or
Yeah.
a personality or a way to communicate any of those things.
Right.
And so all I knew was I liked a girl. Beyond that, I didn't know what the hell to say.
Just get close and stand next to her.
And also at the school I was at that time, because I ended up going to like a like gifted magnet program thing from like 5th to 8th grade, and that's when that happened.
Right.
I remember at that time too, there was this like class thing that was happening, like with me kind of being on the poorer end and not really understanding that was a problem either. Like I'd see evidence of people not liking me for no reason, but it took me a long time after that to realize because I didn't have any money.
Yeah, you have no idea. I know that's
no
the thing.
Clue. I had no clue.
It's
that
a crazy. That's such a crazy thing. It's such a sad thing for all of us in our childhood that you just go from being in this world and you just have this big giant world around you, and you could be living under the stairs. You could have the bad sneakers. You could have whatever, but that's just all. It's all okay. It's all okay.
And then
until
suddenly
you go meet people.
Yes, especially people who are going through or have gone through puberty. It is bad. It is bad.
Oh God, yeah, in the throes of puberty. Good Lord.
It is
so
bad.
Man, oh man, that's so funny. So then you started thinking, oh, I can't hit on her because she comes from the rich part?
No, that's the thing is I never knew that's what it was. So I'm thinking okay to like whoever. You know what I mean? I didn't realize I was a pariah. You know what I mean? I didn't realize that till way later. Like I didn't honestly I didn't know what it was at the time. I really just I just knew I wasn't cool.
Right.
But I didn't know why I wasn't cool. And now I'm understanding that it was not having a social identity and also being poor.
Right. I get it. So now early on when you have this skill, you're realizing that you've got this thing that you can do. You're winning these contests. You must be feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you grow up in, a pretty rough time in a pretty rough part of the city, part of the country. Your music is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And so thoughtful and so layered. I don't want to be insulting, but you could go in that genre. You could go be angry about women. You could be angry about things. There could be, there's an ilk of, it's like in comedy. There's like guys that just shit on women, or there's guys that just whatever. Was it from the love of all that family around you that your stuff? I mean, I don't want to say it's filled with love, but it is.
I think if you compare it to the baseline misogyny present in a lot of rap music, it's easy to say that. Like, and I think that, so in all of my personal reading and studying all through my life, it's kind of led me towards like this kind of baseline humanist perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like just in my thoughts every day, like I understand we all have prejudices and I understand why we do. Like in some senses that's a survival mechanism and everybody has that. And people's relationship with their prejudices to institutional power is what creates a lot of like real rough shit in the world for people.
Yeah.
But just on a basic level, I'm just like super genuinely pro-human being.
Right.
And like I and in that, like my music it comes from this place where I really always want to celebrate like the individual experience. And like I want to rap about my experience. And in that way it's like I wouldn't call it beautiful because I think in some ways it's kind of narcissistic, and I think it's reactionary in a sense too, because the mainstream thing is kind of all about representing one perspective that I don't agree with. So I'm overcompensating in some senses by writing my perspective really hard.
What's the one perspective that you think?
I think there's a lot of, unfortunately still to this day there's a lot of like posturing, a lot of
The bravado.
machismo. Yeah, bravado, exactly. And that permeates a lot of the music, and it's getting better in some ways. Like a lot of the younger kids coming up that are rapping are doing a lot more different styles, and they're able to be more vulnerable, but there's still it's just it's way too much misogyny for my taste.
It's so funny you say that, because that's what whenever like I said, like old guy music discovery, you always like dive into like, tell me who to listen to now. And I'll get some stuff and be like, oh, this is I mean, look, I just gravitated towards that too. I just had a lot of women in my life and stuff, so it was like, De La Soul and all that kind of stuff was like, it just fit me. And I'll listen to some new stuff and I'm cool with it. I'm cool with the bravado. I'm cool with rage, with any time that it turns against women. I just check out. I just bail. But I mean, look, there's all, like I said, with comedy too, there's all those the different range of it.
But I think the difference with hip hop is that no one holds it accountable. I feel like if you're a stand-up right now more than ever, you're going to be thinking about the misogyny in your content, and you're either gonna decide to toss that shit out, or you're gonna double down on it and go with that audience.
You're right.
With hip hop, there's not enough people. I don't feel like there's enough people asking the questions to the artists, and I don't fully understand that. I don't fully understand it. It's something I always have questions about, and it's not me it's not me thinking I'm perfect. I haven't moved through life and made all wonderful decisions with the women in my life. Like, of course, but I think there's just this baseline acceptance of like really rude shit. And I would love it if the music that I come from, the music that like shaped me, got to a place where it wasn't so much like that.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like you have to. It is an interesting. I always think about that too, and I think it's a music thing. I think, even as people are going back in the past and saying, "Hey, this guy was pretty bad news," with women. But like, if you think of like the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin, like all the stories, like it was legendary that they had all these groupies and all these women, and who knows what the hell happened. It was like, but music is kind of, I don't know, it kind of has a pass.
I don't know if all music has a pass, and that's that. I guess that's where I get a little sensitive about rap's place in things, because I don't feel like Kenny Chesney could get away with saying some of the shit that Drake says. I don't know if he wouldn't be asked to do better.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know, and
I don't
that's
know
just
either.
Hypothetical. Who knows? I just have this sense that for some reason people allow that in rap at a rate that they don't allow it in other mediums.
Right. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder what it is. Maybe they just don't understand it. Maybe it just goes too fast and they don't even like really think about it. I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't know.
But your stuff just comes. I don't know if you said it or somebody else said it. They called it art rap.
I used to call it that when I first, like, my first album's called Unapologetic Art Rap. So I used to ride hard with that title.
Right. And it really is. I mean, because it's that kind of thing, and that's why when I first heard of you with dark comedy, it was like you could just listen to it over and over. To me, that was always the best stuff, because I love writing. I love words. I love all that.
Same here. Yes.
So when you get all of that stuff, and it's like you could be listening to it 6 months later, you're like, what was that? Like all of a sudden something's new, because it's so layered, and you don't even know why certain things are evoking some emotion in you, and then you don't even care about like really studying it. It is artistic. There's just that thing where it's always like a good painting. It's always kind of giving to you.
Yeah, and I think that's because I make it so personal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that I try to like hyper focus it on the things that are going through my mind, and I think that like those things bear fruit over time. You know, it's not always like super obvious what something is about, and it's not even on purpose. It's just like, you know, it's the sort of writing that appeals to me and other music, and I try to do that too. You know,
Right. Oh man, you do it so well.
Thanks,
Let me
man.
just take a quick break here to.
Sure.
I have a sponsor for today's show
Fun.
from Wine Access. These are my good friends at Wine Access. Do you drink wine?
Occasionally, when nothing else is around.
Right. What do you like? What do you like to drink? Are you
I like to drink whiskey.
whiskey?
I like to drink whiskey.
That's Hannibal too, right? That's a
Well, he stopped drinking.
he did.
Yeah, like I think almost 2 years ago now.
That's he was going pretty hardcore.
He was, and he had an incident. And he was like, you know what? I'm gonna
good
go
for
the other
him.
direction.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. I am really into wine, and these people at Wine Access are super cool because wine is very complex. It's very confusing. There's like whether you're really into it or whether you just are learning about it, you just need. It's just like having a friend that tells you, no, this one's good. That
Yeah,
one's
all I know if something's tannic. That's all I know.
right, exactly. Tannic and alcohol. If it's really alcoholic at a certain point, you're like, oh, and that's too late. So they have these team of wine experts, and you become a member of Wine Access, and they kind of navigate through. And you can subscribe, and they can send you bottles, and they always give you description and stories. This is again with my thing. This is why I kind of got really into wine. It was really from reading and reading about these guys, people that would mention certain bottles and stuff. And I realized if it comes with a story I'm in, it really, like, if I can know the place and know what it's about, I'm totally into it. And that's why this pairing, these guys, Wine Access, with my podcast is really on point. Also,
Pairing. I see what you did there.
yeah,
Pairing.
yeah. Thank you. And they're also send me wine once in a while, which is cool. So I got this really cool thing. It's a limited offer for my listeners: $20 off your first purchase of $50 or more. So it's $20 off if you use the special URL wineaccess.com/papa. That's wineaccess.com/PAPA, and you'll get a discount off of your first purchase up to $50 or more, which in wine comes pretty quick. So thank you to my good pals at Wine Access. So your stuff, when I started realizing that your podcast, what had happened was nice.
You did it.
Thank you. And hearing about Prince Paul and knowing that your stuff kind of is in tune.
Huge influence on me.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And
huge.
did you know him as the guy behind all this music?
I knew him as the guy behind De La Soul, Handsome Boy Modeling School, and there's a couple other albums that we talk about that I knew he was behind. But then in doing research for the podcast, I found out he was behind others like the Chris Rock stuff and
right.
Third Base and stuff like that. I wasn't sure that he had done those things.
Right. Yeah. That's what when I looked up your podcast, and I was like, oh man, I saw Third Base in Trenton, New Jersey.
What year was this?
This was probably, I was in college, so it was probably 88, 89. In Trenton, New Jersey, and when I think about it, it was like it was a small place.
Yeah, for sure.
It was just like a little like rock club, and oh man, we just loved them so much. They were just like
awesome.
Yeah, those guys were just, and we got to see them there, and I was like, what the hell happened to Third Base? I think one of them is still producing.
MC Search, he's still in the music business behind the scenes.
Right.
I'm not sure if he's producing as much as he is like maybe managing that type of stuff. Like I know he has a pretty big publishing company too.
Oh, okay. But man, those guys were just fun. They were just I think one of them carried a cane.
That's the Prime Minister Pete Nice.
Oh yeah,
He'd have to carry a cane, and on the videos he'd have a throne, like for no reason, wherever they were, he'd have a throne. That was
so
awesome.
Funny. I saw my daughter put on Hello Dolly. It was Barbara Streisand and Walter Matthau, like the old musical. And Walter Matthau is like, he's a healthy guy, and he just walks around with a cane just for style. I was like, maybe I could do that.
I know a guy out here who does that.
You do?
Yeah, he's a comedy guy too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's not a comic, but he's a comedy guy. Like he runs a website that's pretty important in comedy. You know Jake Kroger is his name, but he rocks a cane, man. He rocks a cane for style.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Oh man, I am self-conscious of it though. As I get older, I don't want people to think he needs that cane.
Yeah, that's the line. That's the line. That's the risk you run if you carry a cane, because you're gonna be tempted to put some weight on the cane.
Oh, you're gonna use it. Going upstairs.
Once you're putting some weight on it, then then it's a part of your life.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish I could do it. I'm gonna try it. I think I was in like an antique mall place, and they had this thing of canes, and they're like $5. No one wants someone's old cane.
Nobody wants the cane. Yeah, nobody wants the cane.
I'm gonna go get that.
I want a walking stick like an Ewok.
Like taller than you.
That it would probably need to be, but now I'm understanding why I don't have one, because that's impossible.
Yeah, getting it into an Uber.
You're gonna strap it to the top.
No, yeah.
Oh, man.
I might try I might try it. So you have success with music and stuff, and was the New Negroes the Comedy Central show? Is that your first time of actually? I mean, dark comedy. You're always kind of like nibbling at the edges, but then New Negroes is. I mean, that's full on music comedy. You're shining a light on all these great comedians and sketch.
Well, we were talking earlier about people we might know in common, and it had to be around 2009, 10. I started trying to perform my music at comedy shows here in LA. The first time I did it was, UCB has the Ass Cat show.
Yeah.
So, they have a monologist, and then they kind of riff stories based on what the person says.
Yeah.
I learned that they occasionally have a monologist as a musician, and the musician performs songs, and they do the improv based off of that.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I maneuvered my way into being a monologist a couple times at UCB.
Oh, nice.
And the feeling I got doing my music in front of that audience, I was like, oh no, I need to do this. Like, I need to be in front of these people. Like, I come from dusty, dirty, desperate underground rap music, where like you do shows and you're rapping for people who either love rap so much that they're insane, or other rappers. Like, there's no regular people at these shows. Like, doing my stuff at comedy shows where like people were cool, and then they would laugh when I got to the punchline part of my verses. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is everything.
This is how it's supposed to work. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like the second time I did it at AskCat, I made sure I got a tape of it. So I could show people to try to get on other shows. And one of the people I showed was Paul F. Tompkins.
Ah, okay.
So then I started doing his shows at Largo. And that kind of opened up that whole world for me, and like meeting different people and basically like kind of being in the comedy community here in LA.
Right. And what year was that?
Probably 2012, 11.
2012. Okay.
Around there, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I just missed you. I wasn't here banging around Largo until after that.
Yeah.
Until a little after that.
Because he stopped doing them. I think around 2014, 15, he largely stopped doing shows at Largo. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you know Flanny?
That's the guy that runs Largo?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So then then you became friends with Baron?
Well, me and Baron met at a comedy rap battle.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you've ever been to either. They used to have that in New York and here in LA.
Yeah.
You know Eliza Skinner?
She
used to do an organized rap battle here in LA with stand-up comics. And I used to get invited to them because I was in the community.
Right.
I always lose.
I was just going to say you must have always won.
No, because so if you remember from my stories in high school in rap battles, I was like rapping for survival. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I was bringing the wrong energy into these.
You were too aggressive.
I couldn't make the switch. You know,
You couldn't tone it down.
I couldn't. They would have you rapping against these sweet, wonderful people who were just like rapping in character, and I'm like breaking down their physical appearance. It was really terrible.
You were the mean guy.
I would lose quickly.
Why is he being so mean?
But yes, exactly that. But I met Baron at one of those.
That's funny.
We battled, and he won. He was doing his dope character, this like old man. He was doing his old man character, and he was killing everybody. He won the whole battle that night. And then me and him talked and chatted. I gave him one of my albums. I wasn't the one with Hannibal on it, but it was, it was another one before that. And we just kept in touch and started like I started doing my podcast. He did that, and he was doing a podcast at the time, and I did that, and kept talking and talking and talking. And he had started doing the New Negroes up in Portland as part of the Bridgetown Comedy Festival.
Oh, okay.
That had to be 6 or 7 years ago now. He did the first one, and he saw how good of a concept it was, and he wanted to start doing it here in L.A.
Okay.
And he asked me what I co-hosted with him, and that's when we kind of started working together professionally.
Is the show gonna go forward?
I don't think so. If it is at this point, it would be surprising.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, that is surprising that it wouldn't, though. It was good.
Yeah, it's just I think the show that we're making, I think people need to be able to access it digitally in a way that is really hard to do with Comedy Central right now.
I know, that's been the problem with them for a while.
It's Viacom. It's Viacom's their revenue model is really based on linear cable ad rates, and anytime they put their content, I think, on another platform, it lowers that rate.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's what I can put together. That's what it is.
Because they make it so difficult for you to see things that you like from the network online. You have to sit through like 5 ads of stuff. It's brutal. It's like your grandfather tried to make like a website.
It's rough. It's rough. And
it really is.
We were on, Friday at 11 o'clock, which is not when our demo is sitting at home looking for what to watch. on linear cable. So I think it was just tough for us to find our audience.
Right.
But to give them Comedy Central their props, they did put a lot of our content online, so some of it was able to catch on that way. But I just think that like they want to do their stand-up shows in a particular way on a particular night at a particular time, and I'm not sure that worked best with the kind of content we're trying to make.
Right. It's even more chaotic right now over there with those guys. It's like
absolutely everybody we knew over there is gone.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, the people I really knew and like really loved comedy and really were trying to create things for the right reasons. They're not there anymore.
Yeah, and it's I know with the merger they have a lot of people doing double triple duty over there at different networks, and it's all getting crossed up.
Yeah. So you just put something out recently, just a single
song. Neighborhood Protection Spell.
So have you been? Is that a sign of things to come? Are there more that you're working on?
For sure. I got a whole thing done. I'm just trying to figure out, honestly, like, the world just got turned so upside down recently, and releasing music is such a precarious act in any sense. That I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it. When most of the traditional means by which you promote something are largely unavailable or weird or clogged up. A lot of the sites that I would typically depend on for press aren't as active. They're laying a lot of writers off.
I know. It's a weird time.
So, I'm trying to wait for there to be some sort of solid footing.
Right.
Because
That's
once
smart.
it's out, and I can't take it back once it's out,
I know, and there is something to the freshness of it. Like, you kind of need people to pay attention to it as soon as it comes out. Like, I released a book, and during the pandemic, and then during the protests, and it was like, you can't be selling stuff. There was like, it was like, this is not about this right now.
I'm telling you, I started a record label, and I put out an artist named Video Dave. We put out his album maybe a month ago, and it was like right at the tail end of the peak of the protest.
Right.
And he's a black artist. You know what I mean? And still,
right.
like, it was so hard to get any press traction because it wasn't a time for products that weren't speaking directly to the situation at hand.
Yeah, no, it's tricky. You're better off waiting. But I like knowing that you've got some in the hopper. I like knowing like that you've got it lined up. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, man, I had a rough year, dude. Like personal life, family situations, and
really?
Yeah, and all of that is in there. It's real dark shit. So I kind of, in one sense, I can't wait for it to come out.
Right, exactly. For your catharsis, it's such an unfortunate thing that knowing that someone, an artist that you like, struggles is going to mean some good stuff for you to listen to.
yeah. Definitely digging deep, and it's a lot of dirty blood in this one. A lot of talking around shit before,
Right, yeah. And you've got a boy in school.
Yep. 11-year-old. Yeah.
11. Oh wow, that's nice.
How old are yours?
15 and 18.
Okay.
Yeah, one's gonna be taken off soon.
Okay. Wow.
So who does the what's the food situation? Who's feeding this 11-year-old?
I'm doing my best, man. Me and his mom have been split up for about 6 months now.
Oh yeah.
So I'm no cook.
That's new. No, you're not.
I'm not. And and I am like, I'm it's getting to the point now, like this many months into it where like the way I was trying to get by ain't really working. I could tell he's getting a little bored. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, Daddy's got to learn to step out and cook some things.
Daddy's got to get some microwave French fries.
Yeah.
Have they figured it out yet?
No, they gave up, and they should have. It's just not gonna work.
I saw a thing online where you were shitting on Pop Tarts.
Oh my God, Pop Tarts are disgusting. It's a disgusting food.
I never heard one person attack Pop Tarts before in my life. It's almost one of those things that even if you don't like them, you're just supposed to pretend that you do.
Yeah, well, I used to pretend too, but it's nasty. It's like you're eating jelly inside of 2 old crackers. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't just go to the kitchen and put that together. That's nasty. You wouldn't put frosting on a cracker. Nobody does that.
And then stick it in your toaster.
Yeah, no, that's weird. And it looks really cool. Weird. It looks cute. I get the branding. It's great. They're not good. They're not.
I know, but it's like it's one of those things that's like attached to my childhood. Where I'm like, I'll give him another every year and a half. I'm giving him another try.
Nope, still gross. Still gross.
Still disgusting.
It's just one of those things. I think that once you're an adult, that's one of those things you have to decide that you're better than that. You deserve better than a Pop Tart.
No, I know. That is the thing. It's like the older I get, the more I'm like, I don't want to just. You have such impact on how you feel and the stuff like the sugary things that you're going to eat. It's like this has got to be worth it. I'm going to pick and choose quality items if I'm going to do this stuff.
Exactly. If you're going to spike your sugars, it's got to be some creme brulee or some shit. It can't be a fucking Pop Tart. That's not good.
Do you like being a dad?
Yeah. It's amazing. It really is. It really is.
Great.
He's a little incredible child, and he's not like me, and he's not like his mother, and he's
really?
Yeah, and he's so like specifically intelligent, and I just love watching his little mind develop,
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how they just show up? They are what they are.
Yeah.
As soon as you bring them home.
Yeah, he's his own little person. He's so excitable and empathetic and sensitive and honest. It's really something.
That's amazing. How is it went with all of the stuff that's happened this summer?
He's
with him, like guiding him.
Yeah, he's navigating, but it's rough, man. Like he went from being really excited that there wasn't school anymore to like, oh my God, I'm never gonna see another child again.
I know. I know.
He's
especially
really turned
coming
around
up
on it.
Yeah, especially coming up now. My kids were calling it school without friends.
Yeah. Oh man, so he's in 5th grade, and they had a virtual graduation.
Oh God, yeah.
It was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
They're the coolest, right?
I hope we never have real graduations ever again.
Graduations, birthday parties,
Oh,
weddings,
my God.
gone.
Yes,
gone.
those are the Zoom acceptable things. Let's do all those things virtually.
Because they're impactful, they're meaningful, and they're over in a half hour.
Yeah, yes, you can. It's all a neat video package.
I know.
You know, we can have that moment and move on with our lives. We don't have to
Yeah.
get on an airplane. We don't have to go. We don't have to buy a suit.
Yeah. I
great.
love it. I love it. I know, but I do feel for them. I hope that they get to go back and see some of their friends.
Absolutely, because you know, I don't know that if we're fully prepared for what it's going to mean for them socially. You know,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not sure
hopefully it won't go too long. That's my hope.
Yeah.
Science will get us out of it somehow. Are you a baseball fan?
Nope.
No? Damn.
Oh man, I mean, I'm a Chicago bandwagon guy, so when they're winning, I'm always dialed in, like, you know, the
Right.
playoffs or whatever. But I can't.
Yeah.
It's just so hard for me to pay attention to it.
To any sports?
Well, no, basketball. I love basketball.
Oh, you love basketball.
Yeah,
Did you see
love
LeBron last
basketball.
night?
I didn't see him. I saw a few highlights from the game. I didn't realize that they were having a scrimmage that early.
Me neither.
Because
I
I
know.
was tuned into the 30th date. I thought that nothing was happening before then. So
Right.
I was surprised
Apparently-
to find out that there was a scrimmage.
Yeah, and apparently he
look at
played like it was the playoffs.
Did he really?
That's what they were saying, that he wasn't just practicing.
You know, I liked how it looked though.
Yeah.
It looked so eerie.
I know.
You know,
I watch
and-
baseball. Baseball's my sport.
So
and
they put the cardboard people. They had cardboard people.
yeah, in LA they had the cardboard people. I don't know how I feel about that.
I think that's a bad idea. I don't know if cardboard people's a bad idea.
It's kind of weird.
That's
I like
nightmare fuel, man.
I know. I know. It was a really nice MLB all in on Black Lives Matter, and
That's great.
everybody on both teams took a knee and then
That's awesome.
then stood up for the anthem, and then they have Black Lives Matter logos on their jerseys on the field. It was just like, it made it seem like, what was the big deal? Like,
Right.
what was?
Right.
Even my wife said, Colin Kaepernick must be like, what the hell? See, it's not that big of a deal. It's just
Right.
about kindness and love, and God.
And now he didn't have a job. You know,
Yeah.
like it's just crazy.
I know, but you know, that's the things people have to step out and kind of
Sacrifice. Yeah.
sacrifice. I know. What are you listening to?
I put on Lupe Fiasco's new album this morning, and I usually don't do that.
Oh, it just came out,
I
right?
did, and I usually do not do that. But just you know, I don't know. This morning I woke up early and I had some time, and I saw that came out, and I pressed
Yeah.
play, and I was like, oh, okay, a new rap album.
You know, it's so funny, Mike. I'm a fan of his, but I didn't
Mhm.
want to, like, I'm very conscious of, you know, there's nothing worse than like when someone that I know comes up and like, you know what comedian I really like, and you brace yourself. but I kind of felt confident in mentioning him because
Yeah.
he's kind of in your
For
your neck
sure.
of the woods.
But wait, like, you know, on a way bigger scale. I mean, like that guy, his career is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
You know, to come out like, you know, with a Kanye feature and you know,
Right.
be doing stuff with Kanye and Pharrell, and you know, to really be positioned as like a big deal, major, you know, and then to have like the nightmare major label story he had with Atlantic and not having the freedom to make his own kind of music.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Oh man,
I didn't know
like,
that was the shift.
that was it. I think it was his Lasers album. Like
Uh-huh.
the story is like he turned in an album they didn't like, and then he was on tour, and they were like showing up to his shows like, this is your album. Like they had songs with hooks on them, like you rap here, and this is your
What?
album. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
No.
And you know, and so he spent a long time trying to get out of that situation so he could make his own music. And now he's
Jeez.
making his own music, and it's just as weird and
It's so great.
whimsical as
Yeah.
somebody who was once in that position could be. You know,
Man, oh man, that's got to be an unusual story that they show up and say this is where you insert your words.
I think it's unusual that we get told about it.
Oh, you think it happens
I
more
do
often?
think, yeah. I think a lot of hip hop songwriting is about people making beats and writing hooks and selling them to artists. You know what I mean? I think that's what a lot of it is about. And
Man, oh man, it's such a it's such a the high commercial part of the arts and the art. It's like I was on a flight once with Tweety, with Jeff Tweety,
oh yeah,
and from Wilco,
uh-huh.
and we were flying home, and it was the day after the Grammys, and he had Mavis Staples. He was there for Mavis Staples because he produced one of her albums,
Awesome.
and he was saying to me, like, they're pretty indie, just do their own thing. And he said he looked at the Grammys that night like, I don't even know if we're in the same business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It really is such a wide berth and such a difference.
It's weird.
It crosses over sometimes, but I don't know.
It's weird. Music is a weird animal that way, and I think about that in terms of rap music a lot because like it's one of the few businesses I think you can be in where like everywhere you go you can expect to hear your industry like over the loudspeakers. You know what I mean? Like could you imagine if you like as a comic everywhere you went stand-up comedy was playing over the PA? You know what I mean? Like how strange that would be.
Yeah, it'd be maddening.
Yeah, and there's something to that too, where it's like it's a constant existential crisis for me because I am considered a successful independent rapper,
right?
So I'm in the business, but then culturally I'm not really in the business.
Yeah, well, the culture's so gigantic.
Yes,
I mean it's
absolutely.
so huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're seeing that now, like even with some comedians who are like selling out the Garden, and most of the country doesn't know who they are.
Yeah,
like that is like you have so many fans and so many people that are waiting for you to do the next thing. Right. It's not unusual, and it's also not a critique on who you are and what you're putting out because it's just so massive.
And I think that's the hard part to fully realize sometimes is that because you can follow the mass media cultural narrative and think that if you don't fit into that, then you can't exist. But the truth is, like you said, you can have a giant audience outside of that.
Yeah, it's almost like you just have to now, because I go through it too. Because like, there's guys that are massive, but you have to kind of look at it as this is my little army. This is these are my people.
Exactly.
We're having a relationship, and some years it'll be bigger, and some years it might be a little smaller.
100%.
But
and that's why for me it was important to have my own record label. Because
tell me about that because this is pretty new, isn't it?
Yeah, I put out the first release on it in 2018. But that's exactly why. It's like it didn't make sense for like my career is basically me and my relationship to this fandom that I have developed, not completely on my own. Record labels have helped.
Sure.
But a lot of it is just, me and putting out my beacon over social media, and seeing what attracts to it, and those people kind of lock in with me.
Yeah.
So it stopped making sense for me to like try to get a budget from a label and then give them 40 to 50% of the money that comes in. When really this relationship is about me and them.
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of had to take a little bit of ownership of it because of that.
Man, that's pretty. It sounds to me pretty complicated.
I mean, is it? I don't know. I think that I learned over time how to do the things that the labels do, at least on the size of label that I was dealing with. If it was a bigger label, I'm lost.
Sure.
But the kind of independent labels I was working with, usually it was just like one guy was doing everything anyway.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? And so now I'm that one guy, and I'm only doing the stuff for me and other projects that I really like.
Right. And are you taking the similar approach to the podcast network?
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of identifying shows and people who I want to do stuff with and putting stuff out. Yeah. Man,
that's great. Well, man, this is so great. I really appreciate the time, and I think we're going to be fast friends.
Yeah, I like I said, I hope so, and I'm glad that it's a reality because I do feel like we've had a moment, and I'm glad that it's real and it's not just something that's a figment of my imagination.
Yeah, no, not at all. And if you want, I'm more than happy to drop this bread off.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Don't give your address now because
No,
one
I
else
won't.
needs to know
I
it.
won't do that now.
Thanks, Mike. You're really
Thank
the
you.
best.
I
All right.
appreciate you, man.
This was
Thank
so
you.
great. All right. I'll talk to you soon.